You know what I've noticed a lot is sometimes these big countries, like when you hear Alexandra Pop with
Hmm.
Germany, and you have Marta and Ari Borges with Brazil. You know that there's an immense amount of skill and immense
Yeah.
amount of talent. Sinclair with Canada, you know that there's the players are there and the talents there. But what I really love to see, especially at this Women's World Cup with these underdog teams, is their heart and their drive and their mentality in these games are superior to sometimes these
Mhm.
more talented sides. And
Yeah.
sometimes grit and hunger and hard work and that desire to really win and accomplish history is what will get these teams past these larger teams, these teams that are expected to win. So
Yes.
I find that to be very incredible because it's their mentality that's pushing them through. I was so proud of Jamaica against Brazil to
Mhm.
hold off a number eight Brazil, a country that is considered to be one of the best nations in football on both the men's and women's side. And Jamaica making an immense amount of history at this Women's World Cup. And it's just that sheer determination. And I'm not saying Brazil doesn't have that, but
No.
sometimes when one team is just finds that extra notch, I think Australia found it against Canada. I
Hmm.
think Ireland and Australia, what Ireland has done at this Women's World Cup stands out to me, even though they didn't advance.
Yes.
That sheer determination, that physicality, that aggressive style of play. They
Hmm.
played for their country, they played for each other. Sometimes that's missing for me in these top dogs. That's
Yeah.
missing for me with this US women's national team. And
Totally.
I love to see it from the underdogs.
Exactly. And I mean, this is also just a forewarning, like my personal opinion and experience, but I love what you're mentioning, about not seeing that from the United States women's national team. Because for me personally, I see somebody like Alex Morgan. She's kind of like this untouchable figure, for
Yep.
example, in football. And that's great. She's a fantastic player, obviously, so much skill, highly decorated. But I think a lot of people, for me, I put her on a pedestal. I don't know if I can necessarily relate to her. Um, from a humanizing aspect, and we talk about the humanizing aspect of players a lot before, but I can relate now. I can feel, obviously not going through the same experiences, but certain emotions. For example, Linda Caicedo and Bunny Shaw, some of their moments that they've gone through in their personal life, their troubles, their woes. In my family, we have a few people who have had cancer, of course, so we know what that's like. And just having, I think, a little bit more of a humanizing aspect relating to some of these underdog teams. It's like, Nouhaila Benzina, people seeing her wearing her hijab, like young girls are going to be like, that's me. And therefore, it's sort of like we root for them because we see ourselves in this team, in these players, these underdogs that maybe some people can't relate to with, for example, teams, I'm not trying to generalize, but teams like United States, where they're just being on the top, these sort of untouchable figures, right? So I think this humanizing aspect really plays a big role in the future of the sport as well.
And I'm of the opinion that no matter how big you are, how big of a superstar you are, how big of a footballer you are, how talented you are, how much coverage you get, you still have to work your ass off.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I love about on the men's side personally Messi and Ronaldo is that these guys are, Ronaldo's 38 years old
Mm-hmm.
and people don't realize how difficult it is for him
Oh,
to do what
yeah.
he does and the discipline it takes every single day. He doesn't have a cheat day. He doesn't have a cheat meal. He's constantly working out. You hear Erling Haaland spends 8 hours in rehab after a game. He's
Mm-hmm.
getting ice baths. He's getting recovery. He's working with the physiotherapist. This is what it takes to be the top athlete, and not only the top athlete, but to maintain that consistently. Because just like if you reach it, doesn't mean you're going to be there forever. And I'm not saying
No,
that that's Alex Morgan, because Alex Morgan has accomplished so much. She has
absolutely.
worked so hard for everything that she has. You can't deny that from her. The woman made some of the biggest noise ever in women's football, and I respect her so much for that. But at this Women's World Cup, I'm like, oh, like I don't know if there's like a disconnect in the team dynamic for the US women's
I
national
don't
team. We
know.
don't know what's going on behind the scenes. There's said to be a lot of drama with their coach. We just don't know. But I want to see more. I feel like I want to plug the US women's national team like into an outlet and give them like some
Yes,
like energy.
totally.
Meanwhile, while I'm watching Colombia, you mentioned Linda Caicedo. When I'm watching Jamaica, I can feel that from them, and
Yeah.
I think that if the U.S. is able to kind of channel that now and maybe go into that different direction where we see that energetic Alex Morgan, a
Yes.
leadership quality from Sophia Smith. If Rapinoe comes on, she's now like the veteran, the most experienced player. She
Hmm.
recharges this team. So it becomes a little bit more relatable. You know what I mean? And maybe
Yes.
we start, feeling like it's a team of the past. But I'm 100% with you. I think that when you hear these stories of these underdog teams, it's very natural, and to see how hard they're working for it and to see the history that they are completing in
Yeah.
their program and for their country, it's so hard to not want to root for them because you know how much the moment means for them.
Hmm. Oh my gosh, absolutely.
I'm sorry, I don't
No,
want to
go for
assume
it.
I don't want to assume this about the US, but it's almost like
Hmm.
the US has been like, we've been here, done that. You know what I mean?
It
We're
totally feels like
right?
that.
Okay.
This is gonna sound weird, but I kind of forgot they were even competing in this Women's World Cup because there's so many storylines from these other nations. There's so many incredible goals, incredible moments from other countries. And I'm kind of like, oh, yeah, the United States is here too. Versus before, they were the ones all eyes were on, but now the eyes are on other teams.
Yep.
Other players are scoring outstanding goals. For example, Marta Cox, that free kick goal was beautiful. And that's what's covering the news, social media. I haven't seen really much about this US team on social media other than the fact that they're not in top form. It's wild.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Okay, so we're on the same page there. And you
Totally.
mentioned one name in particular on Morocco, which I want to bring up again. We did an entire episode, it feels like, on Nouhaila
Mhm.
Benzina, who was the first player to wear a hijab at the World Cup. You talk about Morocco defying all odds and breaking these barriers. And I think it's very important to note that they have done this from a personal perspective and from a football perspective. That this team, the courage that they're displaying on the pitch and off the pitch and how they're staying true to who they are deserves such recognition, because that's something that is very, very
Yeah.
notable in this World Cup. And I think that the strides that this team has made, whether you're a young girl watching this on your television and you want to play football or you don't, a Nouhaila Benzina could be an
Yeah.
idol for someone for many different reasons. And now it could be, wow, I could advance with Morocco at the World Cup too. Or if I want to wear my hijab here, I have the confidence to do that. And I just think that from a personal perspective and from a sports perspective, what Morocco has done is really, really incredible and very admirable.
It's so incredible, Caroline. It's so admirable. And oh man, both on and off the pitch, just
Yeah.
incredible storylines. It's almost like I'm at a loss for words just at how truly profound this moment is. And I can't say this enough. Like, this is a turning point. I truly believe, I can feel it in my bones that this is a huge turning point. And I really hope we see more people, men, women, girls, boys, whoever, get the confidence just to be themselves, be who they are, whether it's from a sports perspective or not. It's like, we're starting to break down these barriers finally, albeit there's lots of progress that still needs to be made. But again, the courage, the bravery that Benzina would have had to have to go out there, play her game,
Yep.
represent her team, her nation, and know that all eyes are on her, know that she's going to be scrutinized, whether it's good or bad in the media. I give so much respect to her.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And we'll finish the Morocco conversation here. Just want to also give a shout out to the men's side because they were the first
Mhm.
African and Arab nation to reach the semifinal and in World Cup history. So just what the men's side did, ultimately finishing fourth at the World Cup, and then here what the women are doing. You're
Mhm.
just, again, from a general perspective, you're starting to see the rest of the world catch up to these
So
top
cool.
dog nations. And I love, that you're seeing it as in general from Morocco as a whole. And I think that says a lot about like what they're doing there and how much support they're getting there. And I guess just the waves that they're making for all of the young boys and young girls who, can resonate with this conversation. So just an incredible feat for Morocco. Like if you think about
No,
how close the two World Cups are and what that nation has done, it's crazy in the best way possible.